The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. Third rule of Fight Club.
Have fun and be yourself. Hi, it's me, Doug. You might remember me from Fight Club or from my Views of My Own podcast, but I want to let you know what the fourth rule of Fight Club is, and that is to like and subscribe to my Views of My Own podcast. And if you're really feeling like fighting, share with a friend or post it on your social media. I don't know. Oh, wait, I have to go fight somebody. Okay, bye.
Hold up. My views are my own. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Lightning round. Dangerously close.
This episode was brought to you by William Mitchell Audio. Now, anyone who knows anything knows that William Mitchell Audio wouldn't trust anybody else with creating a new jingle to represent their brand. Now, we've tried a few in the past, and if you listen to the podcast, you've heard some of the prototypes, but I think this is going to be the one. It's inspired by the hit film 8 Mile, starring Mekhi Phifer. And here it goes. William Mitchell Audio.com. William Mitchell Audio.com. When your life looks kinda weird and you wish that you weren't there, just William Mitchell Audio.com because they care. Muppet, babies. Go to WilliamMitchellAudio.com. My guests today are Harriet Harris and Michael Holcomb. Harriet and Michael are the founders of BaltiSpore, a gourmet and medicinal mushroom operation based out of Baltimore. Michael and Harriet both got into mushrooms for their medicinal benefits, but have since grown a love for all fungi. Started in Baltimore, their aim is to help the community around them through education, outreach, and affordable local food. Michael is the head of laboratory operations, while Harriet oversees growing operations. What's up, guys?
What's up?
How's it going?
Really good. I'm glad we beat all of our technical difficulties and we're in the middle of actually getting some shit done. So if you guys don't mind, we're going to start out with some questions from the listeners. And I don't believe that all these people took it seriously, but feel free to answer however you want.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. I like this question. Ooh, and I think I know the answer to it too. How many different, this is from, by the way, I should say the person. This is from Monty Vic. How many different mushrooms are there?
Oh God. I mean, thousands upon thousands of mushrooms. Fungi are everywhere. They're the basis of pretty much all life on Earth. So I don't even think it's possible to list all of them, nor do we know how many exist right now.
Okay. I was going to guess 1 million, but that's probably...
They don't stop. Like they're constantly changing. There's new mushrooms, developing every single day. They're constantly breeding with each other and creating new mushrooms. So every single day there's, hundreds of thousands of mushrooms that are probably creating their own new type. So you can't keep up with it.
And there's I guess technically there's a difference between the word mushroom and fungi. Cause like a mushroom is the reproductive organs of a fungi. Is that correct? Am I saying that correct? I don't know.
Yeah. It's the fruiting body of fungus.
Okay. Cause I was going to say, I had heard somewhere that something 15% of your body is made out of I guess fungi.
Yeah, you got all kinds of crazy stuff going on. It's like a loaf of bread you leave out. It gets all green and moldy. That's full of fungi, but it's not mushrooms. But, there's the potential that a mushroom could grow off of that bread. I don't know if mushrooms could grow off of you right now, but that's That would be that'd be sick.
I think whatever I was listening to, it was like something they were like talking about like gut bacteria, and that some of that is like falls into the mushroom kingdom, but or whatever.
Yeah, it does. Technically, yeah.
All right, Monty, the answer is millions.
That's right. That's right.
All right. This question comes from Billy, and he wrote, not a question, just a statement. Acid is better. I don't know if you want to react to that. If you have a response. I disagree. I completely disagree. 100%.
I disagree 100%. I'm not afraid to say that I openly use psychedelics because, I use them for depression and anxiety and, everyday life. And I'd say in the near future, antidepressants will be disappearing. BaltiSpore is not focused on that because we're not legally allowed to focus on that. But from my personal experiences, I will tell you that acid is a little bit more intense as far as like, it definitely melts your brain. Whereas you come out of a mushroom trip, definitely a little more clear headed,
Yeah, for sure.
Me personally. What about you yourself? You said you personally like mushrooms more too. What's your purpose?
I've tried both, but I mean, like mushrooms are also like the thing is you can eat like a mushroom. You could be like, I'm going to eat a mushroom and still go about my day and do things. You don't get that. Like acid does not give you that choice. If you take acid, the next 8 hours of your life are dealing with it.
Buckle up. You're in this for the long haul.
So sorry, Billy, the answer, or I guess it wasn't a question. He's probably going to maintain his opinion whether or not we don't. So anyway, it's unanimous on this podcast. Mushrooms are better. Oh shit. Well, this is basically, you kind of just answered this, but here's another question. This one comes from Jessie, and she asked, are mushrooms going to be able to be used for the treatment of mental illness?
I mean,
100%.
Yeah, you're already seeing it in Washington. I mean, Seattle just legalized it. I think Oregon did as well. So major cities are already seeing the benefits of it and implementing it into a more of a healthcare setting. So I think it's only a matter of time before you see it across the whole country and across the whole world.
And I mean, like you just heard me and Mike say, we're already using mushrooms for mental health. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's funny, like it's.
We don't need permission from the federal government. I can just do it on my own.
Yeah. Well, they grow naturally. You can go out and find them outside. I don't recommend ever doing that, but.
We're gonna get into foraging. That was gonna be one of my questions, but if you don't recommend it, maybe I'll be careful with how I ask. All right, one last question from a listener before we move on. This one comes from George, and George wrote, he wrote, is your partner a fun guy?
It's like the oldest joke, but it gets me every time because I'm a dad at heart. Mike is the absolute funnest, I would say.
All right, so I had a feeling that you were a fun guy, man. But anyway, that's it. That's enough listener questions. Let's ask my question because this is what I really, really want to know. I actually have every once in a while when I have guests on, I have a really selfish reason to ask a question, and this is one of them. And I totally understand if the answer is like, no, this is not a thing. But mushrooms are so versatile. They do neurogenesis to fight cancer, they boost your immune system. So why not in all these millions of species? Maybe there's some stuff I don't know about. So this question came to me because I started writing this interview in the gym. And while I was lifting weights, I realized that I don't want to just get back in shape. I was like, I actually want to go to this like complete extreme and grow grotesquely huge muscles. And I'm trying to get as huge and jacked as like the dudes that wear Speedos in competitions and, like spray bronze all over their body, like just insane, like veins popping out everywhere. It's a new hobby of mine. I'm not kidding. I really want to do this. And, but those dudes look like they're on steroids. They probably are on steroids, and I don't want to use steroids. I know that's a lot of a preamble, but I just wanted to ask that to say, is there anything, any kind of mushrooms that you know of that have properties that could be used like for someone that has a goal like mine?
So believe it or not, actually, so my history is like, I got into mushrooms because I had a tumor that ate my upper humerus bone, and I had tumors that spread in my lungs, and I started getting into mushrooms for that. But before that, I also used them for working out. So I was also a yoked guy. Like I liked being big, like I like to lift. They have mushrooms for pre-workouts now. Mushrooms, there's so much protein in mushrooms that people use them to help as, a supplement for meat and also add to their meat. So the answer is, can they help you get big? Yeah, they can definitely help you get big. And, I've got people that I could put in touch with you that can help with nutritional, science of it and help you guide that direction, especially if it's one of your hobbies. Like it seems like you might be passionate about it. And I got some people that are actually yoked like that don't take steroids. You don't have to have steroids to be a big Jack Bronze dude. You just got to keep on doing podcasts, and in between your podcasts, do 100 push-ups and eat mushrooms.
Hell yeah. That is such good news. And I'm not even kidding. I've had times in my life where I've gotten kind of big and cause I've been lifting a lot, but this time around, I'm like, you know what? I'm at a point in my life. If I don't do this now, I'm not going to be able to do it later. When I'm an old man, I'm not going to be able to get obscenely jacked. Cause I want my friends to be worried about me and be like, dude, why? and I still skateboard. I'm pretty old to be a skateboarder too. And I thought why not add, cause people see me skating and oh, that guy's too old for that. But what if I was also is a bodybuilder, like a clearly a dude in his late 30s, huge veins everywhere, and I'm skateboarding and I'm just a spectacle. I think that I saw a TikTok of actually some bodybuilder that was he was probably 6'2", is huge, and he was 40, and he did a kickflip, and everybody went nuts because he was old and jacked, and they were like, how the hell did he do that? So I get that. There's a dude on Instagram I follow, and I forgot his name. Is something like SC Big Boy, and he's so fucking huge, dude. He's it's absurd. And then he ollies over trash cans because he can still skate. It's pretty cool. All right. Well, now that we got that out of the way, oh man, just before we move on, off the top of your head, do you know any of the species of mushrooms that are that go into that kind of nutritional stuff?
Shiitakes, cordyceps. Oh, go ahead, Harriet. You can answer this.
Oh, well, I was just going to say shiitakes is a great one because it has the same amount of protein as steak, but zero fat. So it gives you all that protein for rebuilding muscle, but none of kind of the weight gain you see associated with it. But Mike knows the ones for energy. He's all about that.
Wait a second. So you're telling me a shiitake mushroom has as much protein as a steak?
You have to eat as much in weight as you would a steak. But yeah, shiitakes are on par in protein as a steak.
That's amazing. I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
Come on. No, I'm just kidding. I was going to say people take cordyceps and mycology and other mushrooms to help with a pump, get your blood flowing. These mushrooms are proven to open up the blood flow and, get the heart moving a little faster. So it's mushrooms kind of incorporate into working out and every day-to-day health, which is kind of incredible.
I can't wait to be the dude in the gym that brought my meal prep in, and it's just a giant Tupperware full of shiitake mushrooms. And I'm just everyone else is doing those pre-workouts.
Yeah, you would be a legend.
Yeah, dude. All right. I feel like my future is looking bright thanks to you two. Thank you so much. But hey, let's talk about your business and just maybe a rundown, just the pitch of what is BaltiSpore.
I don't mind getting into this. So essentially BaltiSpore is a company that worked out through a series of just fortunate events. So I own two other companies, and one of the companies is a plant store in Fells Point. And Harriet actually came to me. I worked with Harriet at Panera 13 years ago and worked with her briefly. And then our life split separate ways. We didn't see each other for probably at least 13 years. It was a long time. Well, Harriet came back because my friend said, hey, Mike's got a plant shop and I know you work in Baltimore if you want to stop by and possibly ask about a job. Well, Harriet came in there and I started talking to Harriet. I'm like, Harriet's not an employee. Harriet's a boss. Harriet doesn't need to work for other people. Harriet is a driven person. And me being an entrepreneur that knows how to help guide people into becoming entrepreneurs, I was like, do you want to start a mushroom company with me? I already know I've always wanted to do a mushroom company because that's where my heart is plants and mushrooms. Even though I own a heating and air conditioning company, people are like, what the hell? And you own a plant store and mushroom store? I'm like, yeah, because that's I like those more. So essentially we started working together. She's got a farm in Frederick, Maryland, and I've got a lab that I created in Baltimore where I would make my own fruiting blocks and grow my own mushrooms. And I wanted to take it to the next level. And basically here we make all the fruiting blocks and the genetics and the grain. And then it goes to the farm to fruit. And Harriet, being the green thumb person she does all that. So that's the day-to-day is we create. Go ahead. Yeah.
Can I ask you what a fruiting block is?
Yeah, can I show you?
Yeah, but we don't have video for this, so people at home will have no idea what I'm looking at.
Okay, so a fruiting block is essentially, I didn't know if people could see this or anything.
Oh, no,
So
yeah, I should have told you beforehand. I'm sorry.
it's good. So it's a soy dust and sawdust, or soy hulls and sawdust combined. And basically the mushrooms like to grow on that. The soy hull is nutrients and the sawdust is just the wood that they help decompose. And it's just a block in a bag. And you would inject it with grain or liquid culture and it turns all white, it's the mycelium. That block then goes to the farm and fruits. So basically it doesn't fruit until you put it in the right conditions. So a humid space and the right temperature.
Okay, so then in the lab, that's where you first, I guess, you make the stuff that you go and plant on the farm. Feel free to talk to me like I'm a toddler because I don't understand farming at all.
No, I don't like to talk science to people, to be honest with you. I like to simplify it. I'm a simple man myself. When people start talking about, joints and doctor stuff, I get confused. I'm like, just make it simple, it's easy. So basically it's like the seed, it's the spore or seed, and it then goes into liquid or agar, which is just this nutrient that the mushrooms like to grow on. Then it goes to a fruiting block, which goes to the farm. So it's, in the lab, we do the stuff that makes it ready to grow. It's almost like we're the nursery here in Baltimore that then goes to the farm to grow.
And then, then it can flourish on the farm because it's got all the room and all that stuff. So exactly. Once you've gotten the fruiting block to the farm, what's the deal there? Do you just do rows, how a cornfield looks? Or, I'm just curious. I don't know.
You can do outdoor mushrooms, which we are doing this spring and fall. But for the most part, we grow in what's called a grow tent, which is just a basically black canvas tent area, because you really want them to grow in a sterile environment, most species, because you're always running the risk of contamination to your bags, like other molds getting in, because there's hundreds of thousands of spores in the air. So we grow in sterilized grow tents. You have to have the right humidity, right lighting for it, right temperatures. And then it's just a bunch of sterilization all the time. So it's just a lot of cleaning and growing.
Is there a season, or do mushrooms, can you just grow them all year round?
So some grow outdoors in the winter and do fine in cold temperatures. We have a few our king oysters. They love cooler temperatures. Our chestnuts don't mind it. But the beauty of growing them in the grow tents and indoors is you can control the climate a lot. So you can grow them year round with climate control. If you were to do it with 5-degree weather outside, it would be very challenging because a lot of mushrooms go dormant in weather like that.
And so how much can you produce? I guess in a season, does that make sense? Do you does the word season apply to you at all?
Not really, not as much as it used to. No. There's definitely seasonal varieties. There's ones that do better in the summer versus the winter because where we're growing right now, it's not as climate controlled. But easily hundreds upon thousands of pounds with a quarter of the space it would take to grow crops outside, because you can stack the bags on top of each other. It is a really sustainable way of growing in that sense.
I know people can't see this, but this is a pink oyster mushroom. So,
okay, cool. So basically, it's like a mushroom popping out of what looks like a white bag.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Cool.
Exactly.
What's a pink oyster mushroom for? Just for eating?
Sauteing up and cooking, yeah.
And speaking of what mushrooms are for, and I had a question, but you guys both kind of covered it a little bit just now, just talking about how you got started with BaltiSpore. But we did kind of breeze over something you said earlier, which is kind of a pretty fucking major event. And I feel let's step back to that, because I was going to also, like I said, I was going to ask you how you guys got into this, but you were saying partly you were super into mushrooms because you had tumors that you were trying to go into remission. Was that were you using the turkey tail? That's one of the things that I've heard is an anti-cancer mushroom.
I was. So my first experience with mushrooms is like most people, on pizza, but my first actual experience where I remember was obviously with psychedelics. I had a tough upbringing and ended up doing psychedelics, which helped get rid of a lot of depression and anxiety I had. Fast forward to 15 years later, and I ended up getting a tumor in my and my arm that spread to my lungs, and my outlook wasn't great. You know, it was a very tough time for me. So I started digging into like ways to help, mitigate the tumors. And, I'm not going to say this is a cure for everybody, and I don't recommend it because there's not a lot of studies out there. I just kind of did my own thing. You know, it's very bad if you don't know to try and push holistic medicine on people. You know, I think there's a place for all medicine, whether it's natural or pharmaceutical. But there are a lot of really good studies on these mushrooms. So I was taking high doses of turkey tail, reishi mushrooms, cordyceps mushrooms, maitake mushrooms, and several mushrooms that have been shown to help, reduce cancer and, help fight tumors. Now that worked in my case. It doesn't work in everybody's case. And I don't even want to push it. That's exactly what did it. It's, I didn't go through chemotherapy. My type of tumor was rare. I'm a case study at Johns Hopkins. So I was 1 in 11 people where this tumor spread to the lungs. And I had 22 tumors in my lungs, which to this day, I still have tumors in my lungs, but they've stopped growing. So they're just there now. But mushrooms also are a huge, they're full of antioxidants and components that are shown to help fight disease and prevent disease. So there is a lot of research on it. So that's what really got me into it, was when I went to my doctors and they said, whoa, we haven't seen tumors shrink on their own like this before. It was kind of like, well, I know what I'm doing. Obviously, I don't want to tell them that I'm smoking high amounts of weed and, taking psychedelics for my depression to help, with it. But, I microdosed for 90 days straight on top of taking my regimen of mushrooms that I was taking. So I was taking psilocybin pills in 0.2 form. So you don't trip, you can do them and keep on working and go about your day. From that, I ended up, thinking outside of the box and opened up my own HVAC company with my brother. And, I've continued to grow as a person. Like, I don't look at myself as the main reason to live. I look at others as a reason to live. And I thank mushrooms for that. Like, I want to help the world, and mushrooms are the way to do that. There's on top of the health benefits, they're also going to be getting rid of styrofoam with mushrooms. Packaging is going to be made with mushrooms, building materials, mushrooms. Like, there's so many things. And we're just now, as a society, touching base on this.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's interesting too that you said you were at John Hopkins, because that's the main place where they're doing psilocybin research, where it's legal and the doctors can actually do it, and they get those profound results. Like, with people that go in there that are like have the most severe, debilitating like PTSD type stuff, and then walk out of there. And I've heard the phrase is they're like, yeah, like 3 mushroom sessions is the same thing as 10 years of therapy, like intense, therapy and all that stuff. So, I mean, It's pretty amazing.
I was going to say, yeah, mushrooms like saved my life. I had severe PTSD, just mushrooms and hallucinogenics in general growing up. It was the point I was barely functional, like could barely eat, could barely sleep, like anything like that. And I remember the first time I ever used them, it changed everything. And I think there's a lot of benefit to that. And it's really cool that we're in a city where they're doing research on that. I mean, they're doing research on mushrooms. There's I'm pretty sure ketamine clinics in Baltimore now that also help with PTSD and depression. So it's a pretty progressive city in regards to the research it's doing, which is great.
Yeah, it's incredible how many, all these modern ailments we have, and the cures have always been here. I had a guest on just about a month ago. He has a retreat. It's in Mexico where it's legal, and he does ayahuasca therapy. And people like come out of there, they're like, the same thing. We're like, they've been like, yeah, I've been in therapy for the past 15 years. I went and did this ayahuasca retreat, and now I don't want to go back, don't need to go back to therapy, which is like a pretty impressive thing to say. But I did want to say one last thing too about what you were saying. You were still microdosing while you were taking the medicinal mushrooms, while you're taking the turkey tail, things that actually will make a tumor go into remission. But I think an interesting thing too is that because mushrooms can also be used for end of life type things where people are terrified of death, and tripping some mushrooms is the kind of thing that can get you maybe broaden your perspective on what death really is, and that life's more of a circle. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Exactly. It makes plenty of sense, because when I went in there, like I thought I was going to die. I mean, being told that you have 22 tumors in your lungs and you have to get your shoulder removed and replaced, like it was terrifying. And the mushroom, like doing that made me realize, okay, like I'm happy with my life. Like and even if I'm not, it is what it is, and that's because if I didn't have mushrooms, I would just be for every day crippling, anxiety and depression. Like, oh, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. So yeah, no, mushrooms are for people that are also at the end of their life. I think it's an amazing thing to do. Like if there were, places where people could go to just trip with a therapist right now that are at the end of their life, like there's no chance for them. At least their last 6 months won't be miserable.
Yeah.
There's
no reason to spend your last 6 months in crippling terror. And mushrooms could be the kind of thing where it really unlocks that for you, where you're like, you really just take a moment. It's the same thing that happens with people that, that are raised religious and they have, really, really strong faith, and that works for them. And they have their, what they believe is the afterlife, and that keeps them in high spirits till the very end because they have, they have faith. And for, other people, mushrooms can be that thing because it can, no matter what, when you take them, your perspective is going to change, and you might, become more aware of the fact that life is a cycle, that you never truly cease to exist. And ultimately mushrooms are going to like turn you into something else. Like
right.
That's
actually, technically.
Have you heard of the mushroom death blanket?
Yes. And we're trying to look into doing coffins and things of that sort, because I think a lot of
that's so tight.
In the US, the death industry is really not sustainable at all. So the death blankets and the eco coffins that they're making, I think, are the next big step in reducing waste and all of that in the death industry.
And that's where we want to take BaltiSpore too. Like we want to one day, like a BaltiSpore, we want to take towards mycelium products for sure. It's a huge thing that needs to be addressed, is our waste and plastic and materials, that single-use materials that can be turned into, using mycelium to do it. It's incredible.
And I've always found the idea, like the types of coffins they do that are, it's like they preserve your body forever and ever. I find that like not only is it like scary, but it's like morbid, And it's like,
I always tell my friends, I'm like, just throw me in the compost pile. Like, I do not want to be stuck in some box in the ground, just bones laying there.
That's the amazing thing. It's like, if you do the mushroom blanket thing, the mushrooms will convert all of your energy and you will return to the earth and you'll become something new. You might be an animal. You might be a plant. You might be a person again. Or some part of you,
and they also, it's shown that like a lot of mushrooms, even the gourmet species we grow, that they actually, because humans, we emit a lot of toxins when we decompose, like back into the soil, especially with the embalming and everything that goes on. But there's plenty of species of mushrooms that actually soaks that back up and uses it to grow and kind of keeps it out of the environment.
I want to use, since we're on record right now, as my living will. If I just I don't plan on dying, but if I ever do, I want it to be known right now, mushroom blanket me. I do not want to be put in an airtight box. That's not what I want.
Are you putting this in charge? Are you putting us in charge of this?
No, everyone that listens to this podcast, like all the people, they all,
we all know now.
My wishes are known, man. I want to be converted into energy. I don't want to be preserved in a box. It's just terrifying. It's like the only thing I'm scared of, and I'm claustrophobic, man. So like, for real, like, why make the end of my or not the end of my life, but put my body in a box.
That's the end of your life.
That's cruel. I've spent my entire life trying to keep my body out of boxes, like. But moving forward with BaltiSpore, things you do, and I want to talk about, you teach classes on foraging.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to ask, like, what is a foraging class like? And also, can you teach me something today, even though we're not out in the woods?
Of course. So I would say, like, foraging classes, the first thing I really like to highlight about them is like ethical foraging practices. One thing I've seen a lot in the forest, just since foraging has exploded in the last year since quarantine and everyone's getting back out into nature, is they'll find something in nature and then they'll just clear cut all of it and take it all. So with foraging, the first thing I started off with is just telling everyone, like, only take maximum 50% of whatever you find. It's important to leave mushrooms so that they can continue to spread spores and grow, but also for the plants and animals around them that feed off of them and use them in their environment. And that goes with any plant or animal that you're hunting or foraging.
There you go.
But yeah, we basically, in those classes, we teach people where to look for mushrooms, what tools they'll need, and what are the common mushrooms in the area. So for you, you're out west, right?
I'm in Nashville.
You're in Nashville. Why do I think you're out west? You're in Nashville. Okay, so I was gonna say, well, this might still be applicable. But now like morels, they're a huge one. Something you can learn today is that they like a sandy, loamy soil. And they grow when the soil is consistently at like 60 degrees or more. But it has to stay consistently 60 degrees. So that's the first thing when you want to look if it's morel season, which is like the white whale of mushrooms. And they prefer areas where fires have just happened. So they like ash in their soil or things of that sort. So there's a fun fact.
Is that the kind of mushroom like earlier when Mike said like mushrooms on pizza? Is that what that kind of mushroom is?
Oh God, I wish. No, morels are, so the mushrooms on pizza a lot of times are like portobellos. That's what you get everywhere in the grocery store is just portobellos at varying phases of growth. But morels are ones you find in the woods and they're all shrinkled and weird looking on the cap. But like, I think Mike just bought like 6 of them at a farmer's market for like $20. Like they are very expensive because they're really hard to find and rare, but they taste so good.
Okay.
Definitely prize one.
All right.
They don't grow inside. You can't cultivate them. They just this year, somebody learned how to cultivate morels. In all the history of cultivating mushrooms, this year somebody learned how to cultivate them. They're writing. There's like a book out, but it's not like it's intense.
Yeah,
right,
I actually read the paper and they're not releasing any of the info because they want to sell it commercially. And I was like,
the good news is, everybody, pretty soon we're going to have morels on pizza because we can start farming them. Hold up. It's time for an important announcement. Over the past 2 years, most people have watched pretty much every movie that exists. And that means streaming services are desperate for new movies. And by that, I mean they will accept almost anything. And they are particularly interested in movies about monsters that attack you if you use one of your 5 senses. And that's where My Views of My Own podcast production studio comes in. But instead of me telling you about this, how about I let the movie trailer speak for itself? From the people who watched Bird Box and A Quiet Place comes this new, horrifying thriller.
In a terrifying turn of events, anytime a person eats something that tastes good, or if they just taste something that tastes good, they will be killed immediately by aliens, or, we are told, it could be ghosts. It is currently unclear what they are supposed to be at this time.
We should be safe in here, but we have to eat something so we don't starve. And we need to make sure it's something that doesn't taste good.
Don't worry. Here, eat the slop. It tastes terrible, but it has nutrients.
Okay, wait, what is this? What did you just give me?
It's just chicken livers. I put them in my Vitamix with some Crisco I found in an abandoned Walmart, okay? I know it tastes like shit, but it has protein and some other nutrients.
No, I actually like chicken livers. This tastes good to me.
What? Why would you like this? It's not good. It tastes really bad.
What? I grew up poor in the South. Anyway, that's not the point. Why wouldn't you ask me? Wait, why wouldn't you tell me this before? My name is Captain Dick Laserman, and I lost my sense of taste fighting Al-Qaeda. And I just got red-pilled that these ghost aliens gotta go. There's only one man that has what it takes to fight back. But he never counted on one thing to happen. Love.
I'm sorry, Dick. I have a rare disease that makes everything taste good to me. So now I'm starving to death, and I'm dying. I love you. Goodbye.
No! Coming this summer. A tasty place. Wow, this movie sounds really good, and I'm really excited. It sounds like a romp, and that it's cool for the whole family. So I hope you guys are excited too. I guess it's coming out this summer, so that's really neat. And now back to the interview. Aren't morels, isn't that one of the mushrooms that's like super edible, but there's another mushroom that looks just like it that'll just kill you like in a minute?
Yeah, well, so it won't kill you. It'll probably just give you severe stomach upset, which is, sometimes worse than death. But they're called false morels. The way to tell the difference between the two is if you cut a morel in half, it'll always be hollow in the center, whereas a false morel is going to be filled with mushroom matter. Morels are perfectly hollow.
Do you know why they're poisonous? Like, what is it like?
I don't. Most mushrooms, they're not really poisonous. They're just really hard to digest in the human body. So like mushrooms are made of a material called chitin, which is the same material that like a beetle's armor is made of. So it's like a hardcore source of fiber and whatnot, which can be really hard to digest in the body and can cause just severe stomach upset. If you don't eat a lot of it, your body's not used to this fungus and it'll treat it like an enemy basically and just like attack it and try to expel it as fast as possible. There's certainly very poisonous species out there, don't get me wrong, but a lot of just the like lookalikes and whatnot, it's just not, your stomach's not going to be happy.
All right, I've got one more question about morels, just because we're on them right now. What are some of like the nutritional, medicinal properties of morels?
Oh God, I'm actually not super familiar. I just know they're super tasty.
Okay, that's all that matters. Yeah. As long as they feed you and they taste good. Oh, this is just kind of like, let's just kind of expand our consciousness a little bit more and start talking about like the real history of mushrooms. And people that some people that get mad when you tell them that we're descended from apes. Would it be better to tell them that we're descended from mushrooms?
Absolutely. I tell people that all the time. I mean, there's records of mushrooms from the beginning of the earth and the prehistoric eras, and mycelial networks in the ground connect everything. I think Mike can elaborate on this some.
Well, yeah. Was I right about that? It's like we branched off from mushrooms, right?
I mean, yeah, it's like one of the oldest forms of life.
There's so many theories out there about where we came from, and it's hard to say, but really, like if you think about it, if evolution is 100% true, then bacteria and fungus was needed for all of that. Like it's one of the things that helps decompose everything. So without it, there wouldn't be other organisms. So essentially, yeah, I think we descended from mushrooms potentially. It also is one of the only things that can survive space. So spores can survive actual space. So that kind of tells you, we might be aliens out here.
We're actually going to get back into that later. So I'm going to keep everything that I have to say about that to myself until the lightning round. But okay. There is totally a question coming up about mushrooms from space. But yeah, so that's the idea, right? Like there was, life branched off in like 3 kingdoms, but like mushrooms are the oldest one. So it's like we had plants or like flora and fauna went off there 2 different ways. And then mushrooms were like, no, we're just going to stay primordial forever and control the planet.
Yeah, they're the no change gang.
Shit. Well, while we're talking about like being descended from apes and all that shit, what are your thoughts on the stoned ape hypothesis?
The one that mushrooms created consciousness, is that the one?
It's basically that, yeah, we were, our ancestors were still very animal-like, but they were hunter-gatherers, but I think this is like pre-tools and fire. And
this is the one. This is the one that I looked into a lot and 100% agree with. because I've created what I've created is essentially because of mushrooms. Like some of these ideas, like BaltiSpore, the names, like ideas that come to my mind. Mushrooms kind of make you think outside of the box. So I can definitely see how a bow and arrow was created, or how somebody was just sitting there tripping, or like, wait a second, if I pull this string, something shoots, and it helped to evolve, humanity as a whole. Like, it's of course there's super smart people out there that don't take drugs ever that are just like super intelligent, but imagine an intelligent person that's already super intelligent, and then they take something that's going to make their neurons fire faster.
Yeah.
It's essentially kind of how a lot of evolution happened, and it's not a matter of theory. Like a lot of actual things that help our world today were guaranteed probably because somebody was taking mushrooms. It's a think outside of the box substance. So
I think, obviously it's not the most popular theory, but there's plenty of circumstantial evidence that can support it. And also, one of the reasons why the theory that was Terence McKenna who came up with
it was Terence McKenna, yep, the
thing. But part of the reason that he made the hypothesis in the first place is because it's based on fossil records and they show that like there's this dramatic leap, and I forgot exactly which iteration of Homo whatever we were at that time, but whatever iteration was right before the thing that was closer to us was like incredibly stupid compared to like their antecedents. And that was because the human mind expanded dramatically and grew really, really fast. And obviously that could be just, mutations, but it would also make sense that there was a catalyst. And I feel like, and a lot of people feel like mushrooms are the most likely it was available.
Yeah. It grows in dung. They're out there hunting in the savannas in this warm weather with dung everywhere. You see a mushroom, they're foragers. You pick it up and eat it.
You're hungry. Then you see God.
Makes sense, right? And you see God, and you realize you're a conscious being, and you understand how you exist. It makes perfect sense to me.
And I'm not going to keep going on and on about psilocybin, even though it's fascinating. It's something I love. I've had multiple guests on the show that came on to speak about just only that subject. But I do want to say, I feel like this doesn't get said enough because people think of mushrooms as something that's been illegal forever, like that it's been considered a drug forever. And that's just not the case, because that was originally made illegal by Richard Nixon. And, if you look at history, Richard Nixon, goes down in history as being like criminally insane, a national disgrace, like not a person to be held in high regard. But he put these laws in place, for whatever, because people that take mushrooms don't vote for Richard Nixon. That's why he did it. And so, but nobody has ever gone back and fixed it. They're like, oh, hey, this lunatic criminal outlawed mushrooms. We should undo that law. That's a shitty law. So my question for you guys is, where do you think, as a society, how close are we to reinstating mushrooms as a natural and legal medicine?
5 years. I think we're there. Essentially like Washington, D.C. is 45 minutes from us. They are decriminalized there. It is every single other month there's a state decriminalizing it. It's the only thing stopping is just politics. It's even the politicians know that they're harmless, but I have a feeling that it's all about, it's money hungry people that want to make sure they have a grasp on it before it goes legal, which is unfortunate, but that's the case. Like, it's people that know that it's going to be legal and they're working on making it in their favor. And that's exactly what's going to happen. It's always going to happen with anything. Just like you've seen it with the marijuana industry, the same exact thing. There's people that know it's going to be legal. They're going to lobby it for it to be legal until they have all their lawyers in place and everything. Then they're buying into it and they're going to make billions. So, I'd say we're about 5 years away from it, especially with the studies coming out. That's the big thing that's going to be the catalyst, is what Johns Hopkins is doing, what Harvard is doing, what Yale is doing, what's happening is the catalyst. So I think we're about 5 years out.
Cool. And you guys are in a perfect position. You've already, you have the entire apparatus set up. So when legalization hits Maryland, you can start producing psilocybin mushrooms.
I'll have to talk to my lawyer and see what I'm allowed to say about that.
No. Like once it's legal in Maryland, it's
God, I hope it hopefully, if it's anything like the cannabis license here is, those were so expensive to get and went to, like politicians' kids, and corporation owners' kids and whatnot. So, one can hope maybe one day, but who knows with how things work around here.
I mean, of course we want to go that way, especially considering our background. It's not like we're not two rich people that have, that are money hungry. We're giving people, we want to take care of our community. I own a heating and air conditioning company that's successful. I don't care about money. Like, I'm doing these things for the community, and like, I would hope that we get a license so that we can make a difference and help make these things affordable. If not free, it would be great to be able to have, to produce mushrooms to give out to people that really need it. And of course, make money so that you can continue doing what you're doing because you have to. But in reality, like, it's not expensive to make mushrooms. And, if we can help change the world by not only guiding people from our personal experiences, from our past, and, that's what we want to do. It's just a matter of, when that time comes, are they going to give the licenses to the right people?
Growing these kinds of mushrooms and making them available to people for mental health reasons, and that we have a crisis of, depression and anxiety, and people are not able to live full flourishing lives because they're being, held down by these disorders that are just caused by our current society and like the world we live in. But also I feel like all the way to the top, people need a consciousness change. And
I agree.
And the planet, the planet is at stake. We could, and we've all read the reports and we see what's happening. We could end up having a practically uninhabitable planet, within our lifetimes. Mm-hmm. But if we could get some of these politicians to take some fucking mushrooms and take a look and take a think about maybe what's more important than just taking bribes all the time, and maybe that we want to keep the planet alive. So I don't know, off my soapbox, but I just
it'd be nice.
I fully support legalization in Maryland and you guys being able to start helping people with that. But let's talk about what you actually do. And I just want to know, what are some of the products you make in the lab and how are they used? And I know that came out kind of weird because I'm still not fully understanding how your laboratory works. So
go ahead. If you have questions that they asked, I'd like to help answer them.
Well, I have one guy in particular, so maybe I should just do his question right now. This is my friend, Brandon Case, and he was on episode 44 of this podcast. He had a traumatic brain injury from a motorcycle crash, and it was like really bad. And so one of the first things he did is he hiked from Mexico to Canada, like all in just one long ass walk. But he's a badass fucking dude. But also what he does is he grows lion's mane for neurogenesis. Mm-hmm. And here I wrote down what he asked, so I'm just gonna read that. He wanted to know your lab process for lion's mane and terpene extraction. And I don't know what that means, but that was his words.
So most of our, if you wanted to do terpene extraction, I mean, you can get the thousands of dollars of equipment for steam distillation. We don't have that. But we just make our tinctures are probably our product that's heaviest in them, because you can extract terpenes just through alcohol and dual extraction, which is how we do ours, which is a process we do where we soak the fruiting bodies in alcohol and then take the fruiting bodies and boil them at a low temperature in water to help release some more bioavailable compounds, and mix those to make our tinctures. So that's how the terpenes are the most heavily extracted. Mushroom terpenes aren't as explored though quite yet as cannabis terpenes are, which you hear about constantly.
Can I interrupt you really quick? This is going to sound dumb. What is a terpene?
A terpene is a polysaccharide. God, the science behind this. It's a linked isopropyl polymer. I don't even I barely understand what that means. But basically it's something that all plants and whatnot contain. It's a compound in a plant. So in mushrooms, there's ganodorol and ganoderic acid and reishi, which are found to be antiviral and antibacterial. It's just compounds kind of in the mushrooms and plants that you get. And common plants, a lot of it's what causes a plant to smell a certain way. So lavender, that's linalool. It's been shown to be calming and whatnot. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's you're extracting the active ingredient. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're making it more available. Exactly. It's almost you're concentrating it. You could eat, 10 pounds of lion's mane, but you get that same amount of the terpenes and what you need in a dropper. So you're essentially just making it more available to your body to use. Your friend uses lion's mane. I use lion's mane too. I think it's an amazing nootropic. So I can't wait for more people to get on board with this, to be honest with you.
Right after this interview, I'm literally going to go get some lion's mane and just eat the hell out of it, dude.
Yeah. I mean, my mom had a really traumatic brain injury when I was in high school, and it killed her olfactory nerve, her sense of like, she can't smell and taste from it. Really bad memory as a result, like short-term memory since the accident. And she has started using our lion's mane tincture. And I can't say for certain if it's a tincture. I'm never going to be like 100% this is what it was. But in like the last 3 months, she's starting to get like profiles of smells back. Like she can smell smoke for the first time in forever and like notes of certain things. And she is obsessed with it. I will say as a disclaimer for like, if you're thinking terpenes, tinctures, just be careful where you buy the tinctures. It's something like 40% of tinctures on the market are made with the spent blocks instead of the fruiting bodies. So there's technically mycelium in the blocks. If you look on the ingredients, it'll say like made with like myceliated rice grain or something like that. That just means it's made with a spent block. It's a lot cheaper to produce it that way. But like our company, we use the fruiting body. Certain companies do. And that's where most of the beneficial compounds are in the actual fruits. So if you see that myceliated grain or myceliated anything, don't get that.
Okay. So myceliated is the word to avoid. Yeah. I've known this for a while. Like if you go to a place like Whole Foods or like GNC, and like 90% of the shit on the shelves is horse shit. It's like, it's not going to do, it's the cheapest possible way they could make the thing and still legally say it's what it is. And it's not.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So shit, guess what?
Oh, I guess you were going into products, I guess.
I totally, we skipped the thing because I wanted to tell you about Brandon and his story and his question, but the products that you make in the lab, what are they and what are they used for? That was the question.
Yeah, so we make a lot of, I guess, the stuff to actually grow mushrooms. So sterilized grain, which to anybody that doesn't know how the process of mushrooms is, they start in a syringe or in spores or on agar. You then have to transfer that to grain, which is just, it could be corn, it could be rice, pretty much any starch, the mushrooms will grow on it. So we sterilize grain and make that in our laboratory. We also make sterilized sawdust, and we make fruiting blocks for people to buy. The tinctures they're not made in the actual lab where we do our mushroom work. That's a separate area. It's a processing area. We don't do that work in the laboratory. So we're working towards allowing people to get affordable pro supplies, essentially.
Yeah. And then we are just getting our processing license ready now. So soon in the future, we're going to be offering like teas. We already offer our tinctures, which is made from our fruit, but we're really looking into doing like teas and functional like mushroom powders. So you can really get that concentrated mushroom goodness.
How many different types of mushrooms do you guys grow at BaltiSpore?
I'd say we're at about like 10 to 12 right now.
Cool. So what's your biggest hits, like the ones that people like want the most?
I'd say our lion's mane is super popular, just like as far as products go, because everyone's starting to get more aware of the benefits of lion's mane. But like food wise, people love oyster mushrooms and shiitakes.
Okay, cool. And those are the ones I'm going to use to get super swole. So
yeah.
So I got to take my lion's mane for my brain, shiitakes and oysters for my muscles. Guys, I got to tell you one thing. It's time for the lightning round. Ooh. Now, I don't know if you know how the lightning round works, but I'll explain it because it's the game section of the podcast. It's where I ask you questions super fast. You got to answer. Don't take any time to think. This is not cerebral. You want to use your gut bacteria and make a gut reaction through your vagus nerve to your brain using mycelium to answer the questions. That's not how it probably works, but anyway, that's how I said it. Does that make sense?
How do you want to do it? How do you want to do it with two of us? Do you want to go Harriet, Mike, or do you just want to?
I don't know. Cause like, I feel like because I don't know who is going to, like the question is going to speak to the most, or I might want to hear both of your opinions if you both have an opinion. or you might have a differing opinion. How about this? If you have an answer, raise your hand, and then I'll call on you. If you both raise your hands, I'll take turns with calling on both of you. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. Yeah.
All right. I have a feeling you guys are going to win. All right. I told you this was going to come back up, and it's the very first question of the lightning round. What are your thoughts that a mushroom spore first came to Earth on an asteroid, and that mushrooms are an alien life form or possibly the first life form on planet Earth? Mike.
Fact. It's 100%. That's what it is. Like they came, and that was the first form of life.
All right. So actually, there was no life on planet Earth until a mushroom crashed on an asteroid. Harriet, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say not like a mushroom, but yeah, like fungus came about. I'd say so. They came, they saw, they myceliated.
Dope. That's a cool theory, man. Mycelia is cool. It's like it's like the brain of the planet.
Yeah.
All right. This one's we're gonna get kind of deep. We're going back to the 90s for this. In the 1996 hit song "Caress Me Down" by Sublime, Bradley Nowell describes his penis as being a mushroom. Do you think Sublime was suggesting that penises are a vestigial aesthetic inherited from our mushroom ancestors?
You don't want to answer this, Harriet?
This is my question.
Dude, that's sick. I don't know, honestly. Harriet, do you have an answer for that?
You know, I try to avoid them as much as possible. I can't say much on that.
You try to avoid Sublime as much as possible?
No, the vestiges
of the penises?
Yeah.
Hey, but that's food for thought, man. That penises could be just like mushrooms were like, hey, let's just leave a little something on our ancestors. Be like, just something to remember us by.
I think mushrooms are too smart.
Do you think mushrooms are too smart to do a dick joke?
Dicks are just dicks are dumb, like man, when we think of with our penis, we're not thinking at all. So I don't think that's the case.
I don't know, man. I don't know if there's anything that makes you giggle more than penises, though, except for farts, maybe. I don't know. It's
like farts and then.
All right.
Yeah, I think it's shit and then like farts and shit and penises are next. Yeah.
We're gonna have to go ahead and put that into the unsolved mysteries file. But listeners out there, if you feel like it, if you know the answer, just hit me up and tell me, and we'll get it out there. All right, here's a question. With the new corporate culture of microdosing mushrooms to increase worker production rates, the question is there anything that corporate executives can't transform into something lame and depressing? Harriet.
No, there's literally nothing. I'd say corporations almost stole my love of farming, which is like the most fun thing in the world. They will certainly find a way to steal everything.
I agree. It's like, and it's just so crazy, like to take something like tripping on mushrooms and like, how can we use this to make our employees reach higher quotas? It's like, God, man.
I just saw an article coming out about that, and I'm like, is anything sacred anymore?
It's soul crushing. They're like, hey, let's take this magic mushroom and just crush it and turn it into something gray and fluorescent and blah.
I don't think there's anything more soul crushing than maybe doing mushrooms and then having to return back to a corporate environment. So I'm not sure that'll go exactly how they planned.
I used to have a delivery job where I was in corporate offices all the time. Like, and I was just always so happy that it wasn't my job to stay there. Like I just had to like hand over the package and get the fuck out. And I was just like, I was a bike messenger too. So like, I was actually like having fun. I was riding my bike around the city. But every time I had to go into like certain offices, I'd walk in their vibe. Like I would just feel like, in Harry Potter, the Dementors, how they start sucking your soul out of you. I would start feeling like there were Dementors in the room, and I'd like have to get out and be like, somebody sign for this. I gotta go. No,
I owe Mike my life for getting me out of corporate agriculture. I think he met me when I was like a shell of a human, and BaltiSpore has taken it to renewed my soul a bit.
Hell yeah. I love stories about soul renewal. Next question. This one's pretty tough. Best song about mushrooms.
Yeah, I have a whole playlist called Have a Nice Trip. And they're not about mushrooms. Like I don't have a song that I specifically know about mushrooms that I listen to. Harriet, do you?
God, I don't. I was gonna say like
I can think of two. Do you want me to just shoot those out and then you decide which one?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane is definitely about.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
She actually says mushroom. She's like, you just took a mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
There's that one. That's a great song. I like that a lot. Great scene in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas when he's in the bathtub singing White Rabbit. Mm-hmm. The only other one I can think of off the top of my head is Caress Me Down by Sublime when he's talking about his mushroom tip and it goes drip, drip, drip. So
oh yeah.
You guys want to pick
Yeah, no.
I mean, I'll pick Sublime. I like that song.
I love that song.
I'm picking Jefferson Airplane. White Rabbit, that whole album is my shit. So
man, they're both so good. Do I have to be the tiebreaker on this?
I think so.
You do.
Oh, Caress Me Down.
Yeah. All right, cool.
When he starts rapping in Spanish, man, and he's like, you must be a muñeca if you're still standing still. I was like, oh, come on.
Listen, it's a good song. Y'all are entitled to your wrong opinion.
It gives me the right kind of loving on Sunday morning. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Here, let's not be too depressing, but speaking of mushroom clouds, fungi have survived every major extinction so far. Will they survive the one that humans cause?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So there's hope, people. Even if we can't stop Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and all these guys from tanking the world and BP and everybody spilling oil and shit, mushrooms will survive and they will eventually evolve back into another intelligent species. And hopefully maybe they'll be better stewards of the earth. So I like to look at, there's a silver lining there.
Absolutely.
All right. Now this question might be kind of tough. You might, but just kind of, like I said, go with your gut. First one that pops in your head. What is the most delicious mushroom based entree that you know how to serve up?
Ooh, okay. I like making chicken nuggets out of it's called chicken of the woods. It's delicious. I have an air fryer, and what I'll do is I'll just break them up, and it's pretty bomb. Also, truffles. If you have not tried white truffles or black truffles, truffle anything is fire. So like any dish, I'll add truffles to. Harriet, what's yours?
Mine is definitely the maitake or the hen of the woods cheesesteaks. So hen of the woods has like the same texture as shaved steak, and it has like a very meaty flavor to it. So if you just chop that bad boy up, throw some Worcestershire and a hint of soy sauce on it and some black pepper and serve that up on a toasted baguette with some cheese, it's beautiful.
Yeah, Harriet actually brought that to me one day, and it was one of my favorite subs I've ever had. It was bomb.
I think, at first you had me sold with the chicken nuggets, but the Hen of the Woods Philly cheesesteak, that sounds like what I'm definitely going to try now, because I have the way I feel about Philly cheesesteaks, one of my favorite things ever created, but it's the kind of thing I'm not really trying to fuck with anymore, because it's just like not in their original form. But yeah, like that sounds amazing. So it's called Hen of the Woods. You get some of that, and then you basically just make a Philly cheesesteak out of it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, cheesesteaks are my favorite. I say it's like a cheesesteak without the stomach ache, now that I'm getting old. I just can't hang with cheesesteaks as hard as I used to. So yeah, it's great.
All right, I'm going to add that to my other bodybuilding stuff. All right, guys, I've got really great news. You won the lightning round completely. You might have had the highest score of anyone of all time, but maybe it helps because there was two of you.
I'm gonna add that to my resume.
I'll take that. I like it. Let's go.
But you know what? I can't let you leave without asking one question. It's the most important question of all, and that is, how can people find you? How can they learn more about BaltiSpore? How can they check it out? If they are in your city, where can they pop up? Do you got a spot people can come and check you out? All that, those are all my questions. I'll shut up and you talk. Sorry.
Yeah. So we are located at several farmers markets. In the spring, you'll see a lot of markets listed. The best way to find out which markets we're in is to go to www.BaltiSpore.com. As far as local, we are in a plant shop called Fells Point Cultivated Creations in Baltimore. If you stop in here, you'll meet one of the owners, and or my business partner for the plant shop, Alex, and he can guide you in the right direction. Harriet, if you have some, more that you want to add to that, absolutely. Oh, follow us on Instagram too.
Yeah.
BaltiSpore. Very easy. Literally BaltiSpore.
Yeah. We're all over Instagram. We put all of our information there. And then hopefully in the future, we're going to try and open up the farm to do classes on the farm, but that's still a work in progress.
Cool. Well, but no, next time I'm in Baltimore, I'm going to have to hit you guys up and get some of these delicious mushrooms and make some Philly cheesesteaks. So, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to My Views Are My Own. If you'd like to contact me, you can go to myviewsaremyown.com, or you can hit me up on Instagram at myviewsaremyown_podcast, or on Twitter at myviews_podcast. To end today's episode, we have a song from a great friend of the show, Nova Halo. Nova Halo was a person on episode 12 and the very first ever Halloween Spooktacular. She will also be on the next episode where we will be reviewing one of my favorite movies of all time, Aliens. She is super cool, and here is her song, Avatar.
In your lifeless clutch, but it's not the first one.